Are you a bread lover like I am? Today we're here in my kitchen and we're going to be making some sourdough bread. I'm so excited. I love sourdough. Now I'm going to take my loaf one step further and I'm going to grind my own flour for it. So that'll be exciting as well to kind of see how that whole process works out. Here where we live, it's a rainy, cold day outside, so I've got my coffee. Why don't you grab a cup of coffee or tea or whatever warm drink you enjoy and come along with me as I make this loaf of bread. I have my jar of sourdough starter. I fed this last night. I put this elastic on my jar to mark where it was, the line on the jar, before it started growing. So after I fed it, I just put my elastic around to know, okay, this is where it was on the level of the jar before it starts growing. I need this to double in size before it's able to be used. And so you can see now the starter is doubled in size and it's active and bubbly. I'm going to open it up so you can see inside. It's nice and bubbly and active. That means I can bake with it now. So I am going to measure out my ingredients, and this will act as the yeast or the leavening in my bread dough. My loaf that I'm going to make today, I'm going to make a boule instead of like a actual loaf shape, and it is going to use very simple ingredients. It's going to use sourdough starter, water, flour, which I will grind myself, and some salt, and that's all you need. So my recipe says I need 500 grams of freshly milled whole wheat flour. This is my grain mill, and this is my little scale that I use to measure out the flour. And then I just have a container over here, a plastic food grade container of wheat berries that I bought at our local health food store. And these are hard red wheat berries. You can use hard white wheat berries as well. But I just have hard red on hand and it works really well. So that's what I'm going to use. So if I need 500 grams of fresh milled flour, I'm going to measure out about 500 grams of the wheat berries because it will be the same amount. So I'm going to take my bowl, I'm going to tare it here, so zero it out, and then I'm just going to measure out 500 grams of wheat berries, because 500 grams of wheat berries equals 500 grams of fresh milled flour. Okay. .502, close enough. For anybody that hasn't seen it before, this is what wheat berries look like. It's basically just the wheat after it's harvested and threshed. These are the little kernels or berries that is grown on the wheat that makes the flour. Okay, here we go. All right, and there you have it. Here's our flour from those wheat berries, all freshly milled. Now it looks a little bit coarser than what you would buy at the grocery store, but that's how it's supposed to look. It's beautiful, freshly milled, very healthy for you. So now if you wanted to get really precise, you could measure again to see, let's do it just for fun, to see if it came out correctly. Measuring 500 grams of wheat berries actually equals 500 grams. Yep, 501. So it's a perfect ratio. If you measure out the amount you need of wheat berries, you'll get that amount of flour, fresh milled flour. So that's all ready to go. Now we will measure out some water and some salt, and we'll go from there, getting it all mixed up. I'm going to put this bowl right on my scale. I'm going to zero it out, and then we're going to, whoops, I'm spilling my water. Then we're going to measure out 397 grams. So here we go. $397. Perfect. All right. So there's our water. 227 grams of active starter. So I'm just going to measure it right out in this. And it's nice and bubbly. I'm just going to pour it right in here till we get to 227 grams. $227. Perfect. So we will dump that in. Let me grab a spatula. Okay. So there's that all in. So we've got water, the starter. Now we're going to put our flour in that we milled. And then we just need some salt. And I just use the Himalayan pink salt and it turns out fine. So we need 17, let me check my recipe, and yes, 17 grams of salt. Hi, sweetie.
Can you help me put on my...
Yes, I can. 1 second, please, till I get this salt measured.
And it needs to be shown with flour.
Okay.
See, like this.
There we go. 17 grams of flour, of salt. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's put some fairy wings on here. Come here. Turn around. Good job. All right. You look beautiful. All right. So I'll put my things aside. And now all I'm going to do, I've got all my ingredients measured and in this bowl. So now I'm just going to mix them together. Got my handy dandy whisk. And I'm just going to whisk it all together. Okay, so this is what your dough will look like once you have it all mixed together. It'll look wet and shaggy and really not like bread dough. You'll think, oh, I ruined this, but it really is totally fine. It takes a little bit for the fresh milled flour to soak up the liquid. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to let this sit. I'm going to cover it with a tea towel or plastic wrap, whatever you have. We're going to let it sit for 30 minutes and just let that moisture all soak up. The liquid soak into the flour, or the flour soak into the liquid, however you want to say it. And so it's just going to sit and rest for 30 minutes. And then after the 30 minutes is up, we'll start our sets of stretching and folding. So I'll see you back here when our 30 minutes is up. This has been sitting here on the counter for 30 minutes, just resting. So now we need to start performing our sets of stretch and folding. So I'll walk you through that process, show you exactly what stretching and folding means. It's super easy. And then we'll go from there. So let's get started on this step. So what you're going to do is just uncover your bowl here. And as you can see, never mind the fruit flies. We have a really bad fruit fly problem. If anybody has tips, we've tried everything we can think of and we still have a ton of fruit flies. So if anybody's got tips on how to get rid of fruit flies, please leave them in the comments for us. But here's our bowl. This is what our dough looks like. And what we're going to do now is we are just going to reach in here on one side of our dough, one side of our bowl, and we're going to grab it with our fingers. You can have your fingers a little bit wet as well if that helps. If you find that your dough is too sticky and sticking to your fingers a lot, just get your fingers wet and it won't stick as much. So you're just going to grab this side of your dough. You're going to pull up and fold it over. Whoop, this one ripped a little bit. Let's try again. We're going to turn our bowl 90 degrees. We're just going to do 4 stretches and folds. So we'll pull our dough up, bring it over. Again, pull our dough up. This is the 3rd one. And then turn our bowl again for the last stretch and fold. And fold it over. And there you go. Now we'll just sit here in this bowl and we're going to let it sit for an hour. And then we'll do another set of those stretch and folds. So let me just cover this back over with our towel. And we're good to go for another hour. I'll see you back here then. Okay, we're on our 2nd set of stretch and folds now. An hour has gone by. And so we're on our 2nd set of stretching and folding. So I'm going to take my towel off again. This is what our dough looks like. And I'm just going to repeat the same process as I did before. I'm just going to reach in here. My hands are clean. All right, so it's folded over with our 4 stretches and folds. That's our 2nd set of 3. And so we're just going to let this sit for another hour and come back and do the same thing one more time. Okay, time for our 3rd set of stretch and folds. I'm on my way out to a friend's bridal shower this afternoon, so I'm gonna hurry and get this 3rd stretch and fold done really quick and head out the door. So again, just gonna do the same thing over again. You're gonna lift and stretch and fold it over. And you can feel this dough getting more elasticy every single time you stretch it. And the 4th one. Okay, so at this point, you are going to let it sit for another hour, and then you can either, the next step will be the bulk ferment. So with the bulk ferment, you're going to let it sit for either on the countertop or in the fridge for a few hours. So depending on how warm your kitchen is will depend on how long you let it sit. I'm going to be away this afternoon. I'm just going to let this sit on the counter for this afternoon. So it'll be like 3 to 5 hours on the counter. And when I come home this evening around supper time, I can put this in the oven and bake it. So I'll just cover it over with my towel here again and we're good to go. Okay, so it's a few hours later now. It's about 6:15. I left the house about 12:30, so that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost 6 hours that the bread's been sitting here on the counter, just bulk fermenting, doing its bulk ferment. And this is what it looks like now. So it's kind of poofed up and risen some. And so now what we're going to do is I'm going to dump it, flour my counter, dump it out, and kind of shape it into a nice round ball. And then we'll put it in this banneton basket for it to rise or to sit and proof for about, another hour or so. And then we can bake it. After that, we'll put it in the oven and bake it. So let me sprinkle my counter with flour here. Just so it doesn't stick to the counter. And I will dump it out. Let me get my little tool. This little dough tool is very, very handy. I'll just dump it out. Hopefully you can, I'll try to hold it at the right angle here so you can see what it looks like. Scrape out the last little bits here. It smells so good already. It's not even been baked. Okay, so now I'm just going to get a little bit of flour on my hands so that the dough doesn't stick to my hands. And I'm just going to try my best to kind of shape this into a ball. So I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to cup them around the dough and just kind of pull it in towards me. And that's going to make it into a nice round ball shape. And then this side is very sticky, so I'm going to kind of pull that side, get some flour on that side too. And as I pull it, you can see how it's turning into just a nice round ball. And it's adding some tension on the top here, which makes it good for baking it. And this doesn't have to be perfect, but okay, so something like that. If we had made this with white flour, it would not splay out as much. This doesn't hold its shape as well with the fresh ground flour, but it still works just fine. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my banneton basket. I'm going to flip this in here like that and kind of pinch the bottom of this together to hold the tension. Keep it nice and round. Something like that. And then this is just going to sit here for about an hour to just kind of do a short rise, a short ferment. And while about half hour after this has been sitting here rising, it won't have risen very much. You won't see that much of a difference. But while it's sitting here in the banneton, about half an hour into it, I'll turn the oven on and get that warming up and get the Dutch oven that I'm going to bake the loaf in warming up in the oven as well. So that'll be our next step in about half an hour. Okay, so it's time to get our oven warmed up. Our bread is almost done proofing in the banneton here, and so we're going to get our oven warmed up. I'm going to turn it on to 450, and I'm going to put my Dutch oven, my cast iron Dutch oven, in the oven while it's warming to get it heated up to temperature as well, because I'll be putting my loaf of bread into a hot Dutch oven. I said 450, but now I'm second guessing myself and wondering if it's 425 actually that I need to put it on. All right, and then I'll grab my Dutch oven here and stick it in. And we'll just let that heat up to temperature. My oven is up to temperature now. I have the Dutch oven in there all warmed. So the next thing that I need to do is take my bread that's been proofing in the Banneton basket here, and I'm going to get a piece of parchment paper out. I'm going to put it over the basket like this and dump my bread dough out onto this parchment paper. Okay, so there's my loaf of bread. Now I'm going to use this little scoring knife that I have to try to score the dough. Now I've noticed with this type of dough using the fresh milled flour, it doesn't score as well. It doesn't come out with the beautiful fancy patterns like you would with regular bread flour or all-purpose white flour that you would buy at the grocery store. But I'm still going to score this here. Cut this open here, put a score in it. And then I'm going to make a little pattern over here. And we'll see how it goes. I've never been able to make this work yet, to have a fancy pattern with this type of flour. When I've used just all-purpose or white flour, I've gotten beautiful patterns, but not with this fresh milled flour. Basically, when you're scoring, you're just giving it some leeway to let some steam out, and so it just doesn't crack open in whatever pattern you want it to. You know it's going to crack at this score that you've made in your bread. Okay, so now I'm going to get my Dutch oven out. I'll pull that out of the oven. It is hot. And then I'll bring my loaf over. Set it right into my hot Dutch oven with the parchment paper and everything. And stick it in the oven for 45 minutes at 425. Now we just wait for it to cook and for the smell of bread to start filling the house. go. It's done. Let's get it out of the oven. See what she looks like. It smells amazing in here. So this was my big score line here. This is where I scored and tried to make the pattern, and as you can see, the pattern didn't really come out, which I'm not surprised. I haven't been able to get it to make a pattern with this fresh milled flour, but that's okay. It still tastes delicious, and if you could smell in here right now, it smells so good. Well, thank you so much for coming along on this sourdough bread baking day with me. I hope it was helpful to any of you that are maybe thinking about getting into sourdough. If anybody has tips and tricks for me on sourdough baking or fresh milled flour baking, leave them down in the comments below, because I'm always open to new tips and tricks and learning new things. So drop me a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.